like to talk about courage today, vulnerability, connection, and empathy. So I'm going to start with courage. There are a number of reasons and ways that I've been courageous in my life, but probably the most courageous is when I came into recovery from drug addiction, which was 12 years ago. And the first 10 years were pretty cool. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about life, and I became a somewhat responsible adult. Until 2 years ago, when my son was on the streets using drugs, I was jobless, I was broke, my marriage was on the rocks, and I was highly suicidal. And I decided, as any good addict decides, is that I needed to get to a meeting. So I went to an AA meeting, and in the meeting I realized I wanted to die, but I didn't want to drink. And there was something in that for me, and I went home and I prayed, and I was like, right, what's this mean? Like, how, if I don't want to live, but I don't want to drink, and drinking is what I used to do to try and kill myself, right? There was something magical in that. And slowly but surely I started piecing my life back together again, and I decided I was going to go back to coaching. Training is really what I love, and sharing and mentoring. And I left Cape Town, and I moved to Joburg with my family, and I now have 2 businesses, and my marriage is better than ever before, thank God. And my son, if I get emotional, please forgive me, my son is off the streets, and he's back at school, and he's actually touring to Cape Town in April with rugby. So it's been a whirlwind 2 years, but it's been the best 2 years of my life. And I've really been touched by the need to be courageous. And I've realized that God uses us in our lives to step into the really dark places in life and to learn to shine. So the next part of my success has been vulnerability. And vulnerability, I love this quote here. He talks about having the courage to meet our fear. And vulnerability really speaks to me about how do we show up authentically in life. And I've got 2 businesses. The one is addictions. I work in the addictions field. And the second part of my business is I train salespeople and how to develop relationships on the telephone. So if I look at my counseling business, my addictions business, I needed to be vulnerable about where I've been in life so that I can share and show a light for how other addicts are wanting to live a new way. And if I look at my vulnerability with regards to my sales business, where I teach people how to develop relationships on the telephone, I learned that I couldn't show up authentically on the telephone because I didn't believe in me. So I need to teach through my sales coaching, how do I teach you to be authentic with yourself? So what stops us from being vulnerable? I'm not going to take this mic down again. Can anyone shout from the floor? What stops you from being vulnerable? Fear? And if you take it 1 notch down, fear of what? Rejection? Yeah? Fear of rejection? Fear of failure. And both of those I've seen with my clients because they've had to go and look at what is it that they're scared people are going to reject and what parts of themselves do they reject. So it's been a really interesting journey to go and look at vulnerability and see how do we authentically embrace ourselves. Now there are 2 parts to us, right? There's the light and there's the shadow. So if we look at the light side of who we are, those are, I don't know if you can see there, but it's the ability to be honest, open and willing. It's a deep acceptance of who we are in our strengths and a balanced and calm self-talk. So those are our the positive, beautiful parts of who we are. Then there are the dark aspects of every single one of us. We try so desperately to be light. We try so desperately not to have the shadow aspects. But we can only really show up authentically when we embrace the shadow as well as the light. So the shadow aspects of those parts of us that we deny, those parts that we reject and repress, and then lastly those parts of us that we project onto others and we don't like about ourselves. The third aspect of success for me was learning to connect authentically with others. And I couldn't do that until I'd authentically connected with myself. So taking those light and dark aspects of who I was, and then learning how to connect with others. So through networking and through familial relationships and business relationships, I learned how to share myself and to be vulnerable. The fourth aspect of success has been empathy. So empathy and compassion are very closely linked for me. I've had incredible mentors in my life that have shown me deep empathy. My family members who I've hurt have shown me empathy. And I've really learned how to have compassion for myself, because in having compassion for myself, I'm able to reach into those dark spaces with other people. And I cannot shine the light for anybody in my sales business, training business, or in my counseling business if I haven't done that for myself. So empathy is a really important aspect of how we show up in life. And I wondered who's shown you empathy in life. Maybe you could just think about it. You don't have to answer out loud. Just take a couple of seconds to think about who's really shown you empathy in life. And maybe take a moment and honor that person, because it's taken great courage for them to be able to do that. And how did it change your life? How did somebody showing empathy for you change your life? So my success as an entrepreneur has been defined by my ability to be courageous. So as to connect with myself, others, and God through being empathic. I wanted to talk about what my learnings have been as an entrepreneur. So I've told you a little bit about my personal life, but how does that reflect and how does that affect me as an entrepreneur? So I learned that mentors are really, really important. I've had psychologists, I've had doctors, sales coaches, business coaches, counselors, mentors, supervisors. And through that mentorship program, Michelle was talking about it, how important it is to stretch us and to take us from where we are to where we want to be. I also learned the value of Google pay-per-click and SEO, how important they are to create a reach for my businesses. The way that it was explained to me, which is really neat, is that if I look at my website as a shop window, if nobody has an idea of how to get to my shop window, then I'm not going to get the traffic that I need to drive my business. So having somebody who understands pay-per-click, who understands SEO, search engine optimization, is key. Networking, which we're doing tonight, which I love, is very, very important in creating connection. Relationships is everything about it. Business is everything about relationships. And if we don't know how to communicate clearly, how to connect with people authentically, then we're losing business. So it does seem a little bit manipulative in that we're like, well, I want to be your friend, but can I have some business from you too? And it is kind of like that, right? We're kind of, like, business is becoming we'd be having friendships within the business arena. And it's learning how to have those relationships. Then social media is something that I love. I'm addicted to social media. Putting it on. Anybody can help me. So I love being able to connect people on social media. But with regards to one of the mandates of sharing tonight, is we were asked what needs do I have. And I'm actually looking for somebody who understands social media and that can help me put together a campaign. So if any of you doing that, please come see me afterwards. My goals for this year, I've read a number of books, one of them being The Success Principles by Jack Canfield, The Chicken Soup for the Soul. The book's about this thick, but it's really, really brilliant. And one of the things that he talks about at goals is setting goals that have value and that I can feel. And I can see each year that I've gone and defined my goals, I've written them down, and they're in alignment, as DeMartini talks about being in alignment with your values. I've been much better at reaching my goals because they are in line with my values.